very excited about this topic. I met Sheila back in January, and we started talking about things, and just can't wait to dive into this topic with everybody. So in the chat window, if you would like to, we would really love to have you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do. You don't have to be an IT pro to be here. We welcome everybody. But if you're on social media, let us know how to connect with you. Where in general you live, we're not stalking you, not trying to show up on your doorstep, but you might find somebody in your region who is interested in the same things that you are. And if you're going to any user groups or conferences, my next big one will definitely be Ignite in H2, as we've been calling it internally. We know it's going to be in March sometime, but they haven't said exactly when. We just wrapped up the big Ignite conference a couple days ago. And it was something, there's a lot of content up there for the Humans of IT track that Shauna Bang runs. Fantastic stuff for all of us humans of IT. So if you're going to go someplace, even a virtual conference, check in with people while you're there. Communicate with each other, talk about what's going on. If you have questions, let me know. And at some point, Sheila may stop and say, hey, chime in. We may say come off mute at times. We may not, depends kind of on how big the meeting is. But definitely hang around afterwards, because we usually have, kind of the after party chat going on. We do have a WomenITPros LinkedIn group, and I put the link in the chat window. That's open to everybody. We welcome everyone to connect with us there as well. Upcoming calls and events. So October 9th is when I've been doing my meetups in virtual reality. If you haven't tried it, you don't need a virtual reality headset, just an app to get in there. And so I'll be, that's already posted on Eventbrite, I believe, and in Altspace VR. October 14th, our European call is going to happen. It'll be 10 a.m. our time, so one I might be able to make for once. They kind of shift when their timings are, but watch on Twitter for that one or LinkedIn for that one. And then our next call for the US series will be October 23rd, and I have Heather Paulson, who is behind the Windows IT Pro handle, and I've been working with her on Ignite for a couple of years now. And I said, hey, come tell us what you know about social media, because I need to get better at this. So she's going to help all of us get better. And then our Asia Pacific call normally would have happened last Wednesday, but that was in the middle of our 48-hour Ignite at Microsoft. And Sheila was one of the key presenters in that. So they have postponed that just a bit, but check Twitter. I know they're going to get something up there. If you are interested in being mentored or being a mentor, definitely recommend the Join Community Mentors app there. That's also something that's part of the Humans of IT community that Shauna Bang runs, and it's fantastic. Met some really great people through that mentoring app. And they also have a way to join into, I can't remember what they call them, they're accountability circles, but it's finding your tribe. It's getting a group of people that you can connect with when things start feeling, and I've used mine. I met mine at Ignite last year in person, and they have just helped me so much through this year. Really thrilled to have that, and it's a way that you can find it on that app. And then last little bit of business here, we will have a survey at the end, and I'll put the link in the chat window several times throughout the call. We really encourage you to give us feedback there, because it helps us know how to be better. Last disclaimer, this is just a thing that we do as a way to bring people together in the IT pro community and help support women, especially in that community. So this is not an official Microsoft thing. I don't speak on behalf of Microsoft when I'm doing this. Our speakers are people who are just interested in sharing their opinions and their experience with everybody. So welcome, and thank you everyone for being here. So today we have Sheila Jenka, who I am so excited to hear about. She says there is nothing more powerful than story. And I really about storytelling and actually used a lot of those storytelling techniques just in business things. So it's amazing how much it does contribute. And one of the things that Sheila does is work with companies to bring the story, the internal, the external story so that everybody can participate in that. And it's really important work. And if you've been hearing more and more about vulnerability these days, you know, we've seen research in vulnerability. We know how important it is to connect with other people there. So Sheila, who is a writer, facilitator, screenwriter, a member of the Writers Guild, spiritual practitioner, and college admissions coach. Many hats here, and she is going to talk to us today about vulnerability, the underbelly of anger and fear. So, Sheila, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. It's really good to be here. I'm so excited to have met you, and I so look forward to getting to know you better. It's nice when you meet someone and you feel like, wow, this person's going to be a friend for a lifetime, and that's certainly how I felt with you. So I look forward to getting to know you, and thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here. And thank you, everybody, for being here, everybody who is part of this tech community. Kathy, so celebrate all of you. I love women in tech. I have a niece who studied computer science, and she's a little 24-year-old angel. I think she's actually probably on this meeting with us today, but I just have so much respect for you. I love strong, courageous, powerful, brilliant women. And one doesn't need to be in tech, a strong, powerful, brilliant woman, but it's good to be here, and thank you for having me. And I just want to welcome my friends. I have a lot of friends and some family who joined us today, so it's good to be here. And I'm just really excited to talk about this. And I do think there's nothing more important than story. But the reason that I love story so much is because I love vulnerability. And I think my husband and I think we were on like our 5th or 6th couples therapy, which is that's actually another workshop for another day. But I think it was the 5th or 6th, as I recall. And we used to do therapy at her house, right? So it was very informal. You know, you're sitting on a couch, and she had 3 cats, and you'd be right in the middle of something, and all of a sudden one of these cats would be walking across your lap, flicking its tail, right? I mean, it was just a very interesting therapeutic experience. I'd never had that before. And this woman was incredible. Her parents were Holocaust survivors. And her mother had made it a point to make sure that our therapist and her brother knew that the world was a safe place. So they always welcomed people into the house. She talked about how they oftentimes didn't have their front door locked. And again, I think it was part of because we were doing therapy in somebody's house that she actually revealed a lot of her life to us. But I just thought that was so cool and impressive that, again, her parents and her mother specifically wanted to make sure her 2 children knew that the world was a safe place, having come through the Holocaust experience. And she met her husband in the camp, right? Which is, again, that's an incredible thing. Very, very powerful. So I knew that I was really, really in the midst of someone profound here. Part of an incredible legacy of women, strong, powerful, courageous women, willing to be vulnerable. So in one of the sessions one day, she's saying something, he and I are scrapping, trying to figure out who's going to get her on our team for that day. And she said, the only way to be safe in the world is to be completely vulnerable. And she goes on, and I said, wait a minute, wait, what? What did you just say? And she said, yeah, no, the only way to be safe in the world is to be completely vulnerable. And I said, really? Because that's the exact opposite of what I learned in my home. She said, I know. But I'm just telling you, the only way to be safe in the world is to be completely vulnerable. And I felt like I'd been hit by a bataka, right? Like, I'd never heard anything like that. So we leave therapy. I go and drop my husband off because I have to go do volunteer work at a church, no less. That's an important part of this. So on the way, I stop at a 7-Eleven, and I'm getting a pack of gum, and I'm in there waiting in line. And this guy sidles up next to me, and he says, hey, you look really good in that sweater. You look really good. I said, oh, thanks. Thank you very much. And he said, no, I just want to make sure you know you look really good in that sweater. Really good. And I said, hey, thanks a lot. My cop husband likes me in this sweater too. And the guy kind of backs, and my husband's not a cop, by the way. And people kind of back off and step away, and people are looking and checking out and saying, oh, it's a cop sweater. And the guy really backs far away. I get my gum and I get out of there, and I go sit in my car, and people are kind of looking out the window like, what does a cop's wife drive? The car needs to be washed, right? I mean, it felt like everybody was staring at me. And I'm in my car, and I'm thinking about what I just heard an hour before. That the only way to be safe in the world is to be completely vulnerable. And let me tell you, That is not the first time that I've lied and said that my husband was a cop when something like that was going on with a man with attention. We'll get to that later. But I'm sitting there and I thought, the only way to be safe is to be completely vulnerable. Now, what I just did, and again, had done at other times in my life, numerous times in my life, and I thought it was making me feel safe. And what I realized that day is it actually, she was right. That didn't make me feel safe at all. That was what the intention was. I needed to feel safe. Somehow, despite the fact it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a sunny day in California, I'm in a 7-Eleven, you know, all the light coming through the windows, you know, 10 people lined up in the store. I'm probably safe. I'm probably just fine. But I had to retreat to that lie because I felt so afraid. And I got it, that didn't make me feel safe at all. Vulnerability would have made me feel safe. And what would vulnerability have looked like in that instance? So he said it the first time. I could have been more polite with the thank you. Well, thank you very much. That's kind of you. And if he went ahead and said it the second time, like he did, I could have said, that is so kind of you to say. You know, my husband, he forgets to tell me that kind of thing at the beginning of the day. Thank you. That's very thoughtful of you. And if he would have said it a third time, I could have said, well, now this is starting to feel a little uncomfortable. Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it, but I've heard you. Thank you. That would have been vulnerable. That would have made me feel safe. There was nothing that made me feel safe about giving the indication that my cop husband, was going to show up, right, and solve the problem as if there was a problem. There wasn't a problem. Now, the problem is what I bring to it and what comes with that kind of a compliment for me. We'll get there. But that was a pivotal moment for me. And that was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I know I've never had to lie like that ever since, because I get it now. I really, really get it. And you would think I would get this given my experience. So I'm part of a lot of support groups. You know, I have some different things I needed some help with, right? So one of my things, for instance, I have an eating disorder. I used to weigh 200 pounds. That was one of the ways I tried to stay invulnerable and keep you away from me, keep you physically at a distance. But even more important than that is it so affected my moods. I was so inconsistent and so running hot and cold, which really keeps people at a distance. You know, if people don't know how you're going to respond as a general rule, I mean, just ask my husband. If people don't know that, they can't really depend on you showing up consistently. That is going to keep people at a distance. That worked very well for me. And that is what I learned in my home. I came from one of those homes and I loved my parents and they were well intentioned. And I am so grateful that I was born from the parents that I was, born into the home that I was. But I got to tell you, it was not an easy place. It was not an easy place to be. My parents both came from alcoholic homes. Both had alcoholic fathers, and alcoholism travels south quickly. And my parents were affected by it. And I always say, of all the bad stuff that went on in my home, and there was bad stuff, right? We got belted pretty good. There was, you know, some violence. There was, you know, my mother was a rager. My dad's anger was kind of a passive aggressive type thing. My mother was a rager. Once in a while, she'd throw, you know, things. I remember her breaking her china. Of all the bad things that happened in my home, the worst is that people didn't know how to talk to each other. They didn't know how to have a conversation. They didn't know how to say, hey, Kathy, can we talk about what happened? You said this, I thought this, and that hurt my feelings. Is that what you meant? We didn't know how to do that. So consequently, because we didn't know how to do that, which again, that's the epitome of vulnerability, is having a conversation. Having that very vulnerable conversation. My feelings are hurt. Did I miss something here? Was that your intention? And being ready for somebody potentially saying, yeah, it was. That's vulnerability. But that was the worst thing in my home, is that we didn't know those conversations. We didn't know how to have those. So consequently, there were a lot of relationships that stayed on the surface. A lot of talk about sports and weather in my family. And this worked pretty well for me. I dig sports And I love weather. It's my favorite app on my phone. I don't have a boatload of apps on my phone, but I love that weather app. So this worked well for me. But there wasn't a lot of that depth. And, I dealt with sexual trauma from my childhood. And that leaves you raw. And so being in that family, dealing with that pain, that very, very significant pain, at the hands of two men on numerous occasions, at 5 and at 10, I was in pain from when I was very, very young, and I didn't have a voice for it. So I was in pain, and I didn't know how to get it out. I didn't share it with anybody. I didn't say anything. I just got more and more defensive. I talked about those support groups I'm a part of, right? Because hot fudge sundaes and tequila don't work for me anymore. But those were never my problems anyway. They were never, ever my problems. My problem has always been my heart. That's always been my issue. I do not love easily, and I do not forgive easily. That's the truth. Now, I've gotten much better, and I am very, very grateful for all the therapists, all the support, all the love, all the community that I have built out there, and the ways that I have learned to be vulnerable and fail miserably and get defensive again and get defended, right? And push you away and then bring you back in and open my heart and take responsibility for what I've done. I'm very, very grateful for that. But I'm also still conscious that those grooves run really deep from my family, really, really deep. And it is very easy for me to fall in and not realize it. And all of a sudden I've pushed you away, and I don't have access to my heart, and I don't know how to let in the love. I'm always have been pretty good at knowing how to give the love, but that was because I just felt so alone. I had to do something. I didn't feel worthy of your love, and I wasn't in a situation, again, a family where we were openly effusive with that. So I didn't feel it coming at me, so I had to do something. So I knew how to put it out. That I was pretty good at. But the real thing for me was to get to the other side of that and see that there really isn't anything that holy about giving love if I can't receive it. And I couldn't receive it for a long time. And I still really struggle with it. I have a husband that is just lovely and wonderful and a dream. And it's not unusual for me to be judging him, and he's only as good as the last episode. Whatever the thing is, did you get the dishes last week? Did you empty the water? Did you remember did you turn off the fans and cook? That's a crazy way for somebody to have to live. And all I can say, right, is then take responsibility for it, acknowledge it later, and get back to my heart, get back to that loving place. But I don't have a lot of experience with this. So what I'm real clear about in this second half of my life, right? I'm 56 years old, so pretty obvious I'm in the second half of my life. I get it, that this is going to be a process for me to keep going back and retreating to my heart, the love and the forgiveness, and getting really vulnerable and remembering what that therapist said. I will never forget that, and I don't want to lose that. And so I absolutely get it now, that the only way to be safe is to be completely vulnerable. So then how is that relevant in business? Like, why should somebody bring me in a business situation to talk about that? Because let's say you're in, Kathy works at one of those places, right? One of those places where there are a lot of perks. Bring your dog, we'll do your dry cleaning, come get a massage, come sit in a room full of, plastic balls and play around in that, How many, get a haircut, go to a chiropractor, in-house. I mean, how many perks can you give people before you realize that they want something more than that? People want people want access to their heart. We do. You know, you look around at all the things that are going on now. It's it's no accident that we've ended up here. We all have a responsibility in this. Or at least I'm very clear that I have a responsibility in this. And that's why I want to make sure on a daily basis I have access to my heart. But I've gone in places and I've taught about Aristotelian three-act structure, and it is important to teach about story. And it is important for people to know their stories. And it is because you can't tell your business's story unless you know your own story. But you can't really tell your own story until you get very close to what is the most painful thing that you've ever experienced, and how can you make friends with that? Let's do a little exercise right now, right? So grab a piece of paper if you've got one. We'll post it or something, right? Or write it on the back of your hand. And I want you to think about, and you're just going to do this because we want to keep the story out of it. You want to keep the story out, right? When you're going and you're figuring out, ironically, when you're going and you're figuring out what your story is, you want to tell your story as succinctly as you can. You know, Mark Twain said, I wrote my friend a 4-page letter. If I'd had more time, I would have written him a 2-page letter. You know, less truly is more. And the reason we want to do that, keep stories brief, is because there's really only 3 purposes for story. So Aristotle gave us one of them, 800 years ago. It's to create catharsis. You know, it's the reason people go to horror movies, and I mean, I don't go to horror movies, but some people go to horror movies so that in the middle of the afternoon they can all, you know, when the monster jumps out, and they can have that catharsis, that 3 o'clock in the morning thing that they're usually experiencing at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they can experience it in, not now, but in a theater full of people, and it's safe. That was the original purpose of story, to create catharsis, to give an opportunity for catharsis to work through us. Let those feelings emote. The second purpose is what we talk about in the entertainment business, which is to entertain, right? That's the purpose of story, is to entertain. But the third thing, and this is particularly relevant for somebody like me, who has intimacy issues. That's what the struggle with vulnerability is it's hard for me to be intimate. So the third thing, particularly again, relevant for somebody like me, the purpose of story is to get you on my team. To get you on my team. See, like I just told you that sexual trauma I'd experienced in my childhood. My guess is most of you right now are on my team. You're probably on my team and you are angry with me, potentially with me, but put an asterisk there because I'm not angry with those men anymore. I forgave them decades ago. But there's a good chance if I was angry, you would be angry with me. You would be on my team. I'm the good guy, they're the bad guy. But that's not going to serve me. That's not a good purpose of story. And that is not anything that is going to get me out of vulnerability. I mean, get me toward vulnerability. It is going to get me closer to my heart. I don't want you on my team. I want you to be with me. Let me know that I'm not alone. But stand with me and help me remember that we are all more than our worst moments. We're all more than our worst moments. That is not all. Let's just take the worst, right? Let's just call him Marvin, right? That's his name. Let's call him Marvin. Marvin was more than that moment. He was somebody's son, somebody's father, somebody's uncle, somebody's employer, somebody's friend, maybe somebody's golf partner, bowling team member. He was more than that moment. And I want to be encouraged with the people who are standing with me because I want to keep access to my heart. Because I don't want to live the second half of my life still struggling with love and forgiveness in the way that I did. I need people standing with me who are helping me remember that we are all more, so much more than our worst moments. Well, that's real vulnerability. See, being angry at Marvins of the world, the politicians, the rhetoric, the people, the cancel culture stuff. That's not, there's nothing vulnerable about that. You can hear it in my tone of voice when I'm closer to my heart. Now, I'm a passionate speaker at stuff, and, and I love doing this, and, I love that we're doing this the way we're doing this. It's even more fun, right, when we're all in the room, and, there's a lot of energy, and I just dig it. I love it. But, so I'm not talking about that, because I think even when I'm talking like that, you can hear the love. But I'll tell you what, here's what the lack of love sounds like. Here's how I remember my mother. My well-intentioned, I love my mother, deceased. My parents are deceased. They died young in their 60s. Died of various ailments, but the reality is they died of broken hearts. But I remember my mother talking like this, and there just wasn't access to this. That's all it was. And my mother, it wasn't like my mother withheld anything from me. Now, I didn't know this when I was growing up. I thought everything that was playing out because I was unlovable. I was unworthy. But it had nothing to do with that. My mother didn't have it in her bag. She didn't have it to give me. I kind of imagine it sometimes like my mom came in, and don't worry, we're going to get back to the exercise. But like my mom came in and she had a bag, and I said, "Oh, good. Mom's going to make an apple pie. Mom's going to make an apple pie." And she said, "Here's the beef, and here's the sour cream and the mushroom sauce." And I said, wait a minute. We're making an apple pie, right? No, we're making beef stroganoff. Well, I didn't want beef stroganoff. I wanted an apple pie. But she didn't have it in her bag. She didn't have it in her bag. She wasn't withholding from me. She just didn't have it to give. It took me a long time to get, because my best friends that I grew up with, they were twins, and their mother was loving and available and very, very present. Spent a lot of time with them growing up. And that woman really saved my life in many ways. But she had a very full bag. She had a very full bag. But my mother gave me everything that she had. She just didn't have a lot in her bag. And that alcoholic home she came from, her father, my grandfather, he was a violent man. He wasn't even just a child beater, he was a beater upper. So my mother was just a wounded bird. She was just in so much pain. So much pain. And I am so glad that in adulthood, through all these things that I participated in, that I got access to my heart and could appreciate that about my mother and love my mother. And I'm just so grateful for that. So yeah, let's do this little exercise. Okay, so you got a little piece of paper. I want you to write down a secret. And it might be something, and write a pretty good secret. Something that maybe nobody even knows. And I hope if nobody knows, you find a way to rectify that. And we'll talk about that later too. I got an idea there. But maybe a therapist knows, maybe your spouse or a partner, or maybe your adult child or something knows, Maybe somebody knows, but not a lot of people know. Write something down. Again, we don't need a big story, just a few lines, if that, maybe a single line. I know what I would write. Mine would be one word. So I'm just going to pretend I'm writing it right here on this paper next to me. Okay? Now, draw a line underneath it. And what is your willingness to tell? If you, like Kathy and I met, she said we met back in January, and after an hour, I knew that she was I knew this woman was going to be in my life for the rest of my life. She was going to be a good friend. Would you tell, if you had an interaction with somebody about an hour long, would you tell somebody that secret? Now, as connected as I felt with Kathy, I wouldn't have told her that secret. And why? So underneath that, so you've got your secret, you've got that line underneath it. Why wouldn't you tell? What is your concern? And what my concern would be, right? So I've got my secret, my line underneath it would be that I'd be abandoned. That somebody wouldn't want to interact with me. They wouldn't want anything to do with me anymore if they knew my secret. Okay, now you got that little thing. Now draw the next line, the last line. And if somebody came to you, somebody that you had a great interaction with for about an hour, maybe longer, don't even worry about that. If somebody came to you and told you the very secret that you have written down, what would your response be to them? And I know what my response would be if somebody came to me and revealed what my secret was, that they were experiencing that and dealing with that. I would feel great love and great compassion. And it would be really easy for me to communicate that to them loud and clear. That they were loved and they were safe. Now, isn't it interesting that I have a secret and I know how I would respond to somebody else? The third thing I've written down. But my place in the middle is I still don't want to tell anybody. That's my pain. That's what has to get sorted out. So that's where it becomes relevant, going into a business situation and doing these kind of workshops, because it's that place in the middle, and it doesn't matter how successful you are. You know, one of the things I talk about on my website, I've worked for 2 billionaires, countless millionaires. It doesn't matter the money, property, and prestige, the Academy Awards, the championship rings. It doesn't matter how much of that stuff you have. It's that place in the middle. That's the thing that gets us in trouble. This idea that if it was coming from you, I would know how to love you and be compassionate with you. But I still don't. Two things. I don't trust that you'll give that to me. And the only reason I can feel that you won't give that to me is because I still don't know how to give that to me. See, the answer in the middle there, it's really not about what I'm afraid would be coming from you about my secret. That's what's coming from me about my secret. That's where I'm not accessing real vulnerability with me. Because I still love you and trust you more than I love and trust me. Well, that doesn't work. That doesn't work well. And that is not going to be effective in the workplace. It's not going to be effective in relationships. It's not going to be effective out in the world. It's not going to be effective if you're dealing with addiction issues. It's going to make things worse. So that's what this conversation is about out in the business world and how it becomes effective. And yes, if you have 100,000 employees and you have supported them in doing the work where they can start looking at that place, we can look at that place in the middle and start making friends with that and get more and more in line with this idea that we'd expect the same kind of love and compassion that we'd extend. Is that going to show up in your business? Of course it's going to show up in your business. Of course it's going to show up in your bottom line. Of course. Of course. But it's not even for that purpose. And it's not even about something like self-actualization or anything like that. It's about humanity. I think we have a responsibility. I feel quite sure we have a responsibility to one another. What I feel like my responsibility is to get sorted out. And I have a lot of things I need to get sorted out about. A lot of uncoiling in my life. And I feel pretty good about the fact that I haven't gotten it yet. I haven't gotten it, but I'm getting it. And that uncoiling, that you get sorted out enough. And then the only other purpose is to help other people get to that same place. That's the thing. That's it. I just want access to my heart and I want to help other people get access to those. So we're going to open it up and see. I don't know if anybody, if we want to chat a little bit. I do want to just tell you one more thing that, so one of the other things I do. So I go and I teach story structure. I teach, this team building, connecting. You can check it out on my website. But I'm a spiritual practitioner, and a practitioner is when you think about if anybody else has been in therapy, I mean, therapy has been a good tool for me over the years at various times. And therapy, and I dig therapy. But the thing about therapy is and my background is social work, but I wasn't licensed. I mean, that was just the first job I went into out of college. Always kind of social work type jobs. That's why my shoulders are always like this, right? I'm always leaning forward, like, what do you need from me? What can I give you? The kindergarten teacher, the social worker, the nurse, everybody. What can I give you? But okay, well, there's a vulnerable moment. I just forgot what I was saying. Kathy, what was I saying? Where was I? Anybody? You're muted. Poor Kathy.
Sorry, I had all the piggies going on there. Now, okay. You're talking about companies and being vulnerable in those companies, and then the therapist, spiritual practitioner.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. So, so in therapy, it can take a long time, right? So you can be in therapy for 5 years, 10 years, and they're going to be very, very gentle. They're going to kind of wait for things to come up, and then there'll be that session, however many years down the road, and they'll gently take your hand. Well, spiritual therapist, practitioners is the same kind of thing. I mean, I had to do 4 years of training to get licensed as a practitioner at Agape. But it's the same kind of thing, but it actually happens much faster. And again, don't be thrown by the word spiritual. The spirit, is breath. I mean, just think of it as life. Don't get thrown by anything. Don't get thrown by the whole God conversation. I mean, God works well for me. It's not anything that I've struggled with. I've struggled with the idea of, am I loved by God? But that has more to do, again, with my family and my own heart. But, if God's an issue for you, just think like an atheist friend of mine says, for him, God is God, get outdoors, just out in nature. But what we do as a practitioner is we actually just speed up that process, right? So it's just communicating loud and clear that you're safe by the hand and get you to this place in case you don't want to spend 10 years getting access to that middle place in your heart. So that's what I do as a practitioner. So here's what I'm telling anybody who's on the call here. If you want, and I do that, I do sessions with people, but I'll give anybody who wants to do this, you can contact me through my website or my email address. I'll do a half-an-hour practice session with you. And I've been a practitioner for 14 years. It comes very naturally to me. I love it. I love to listen and help people get access to your heart. So you've got that as an option. But let's see what's going on for you. So this is a deep conversation we've had, and I realize that not everybody, quite obviously has the experience I have, and I hope to God that none of you do. But I also feel quite comfortable saying that I'm sure I'm not the only one who's experienced kind of that pivotal pain right behind sexual trauma. And we need to start talking about this. It's just rampant. I mean, the numbers are very, very high out there in terms of people who've been affected by this. And I know because I talk about it in volunteer work capacities, and I get a lot of response from women and men. I've had men sobbing in front of me, telling me they were molested as a child as they drove up in their Bentley and have never shared it with anybody. So it's out there. But it doesn't mean everybody has that experience, and it doesn't even mean your secret needs to be big and intense and astounding like that, right? But we just want to make sure we have that middle place handled, that we know that we can expect the same love from others that we did to them. So I don't know. Do we have any questions in the chat or anything we want to chat about?
I've had a couple comments, but Stephanie said, I'm with you. Part of vulnerability is forgiveness. Forgiveness is not forgetting.
We'll get to time. Yeah. Yeah. My husband was saying that he, his first job, he went to MIT, and his first job out, he was the finance guy for Warner Earhart at Est. And Warner used to say his description of forgiveness was, it's giving up, surrendering the right to punish, giving up the right to punish. And you know, I talk about that on my website. We have at Underbelly. That's the company, and that's one of the principles is forgive everybody of everything all the time. The first time I heard that was at the church where I go to in Culver City. Well, it used to be in Culver City. Michael Beckwith. Michael Beckwith kind of pals around with Oprah, and was in that, you know, Secret movie and stuff. But he's really cool. He's a great man and does a lot of good stuff. This is where my husband and I met, right? The Jewish boy and the Catholic girl met at the Black church. And for a period of time, it was the largest Black-white congregation in the United States. And but Michael was the first one who I ever heard, Reverend Michael, was the first one I ever heard say, forgive everybody of everything all the time. Which just seemed radical to me, absolutely radical. But having been on the other side of it, again, especially, you know, because I'm just bringing up the big ticket items. Because if I can forgive Marvin for what he did, I can definitely forgive the girl who stole my guitar in junior high, right? So if you can deal with those big ticket items, you know that everything else is going to be manageable. Because I got to tell you, it comes up really quickly. Remember what I said? My issue is I don't love easily and I don't forgive easily. And interestingly enough, it's the big ticket items are much easier for me to deal with sometimes than the little ones. You know, I can drop a transmission on the 405 in 5 o'clock Los Angeles traffic, but break a shoelace, somebody's going down. So it's the little things sometimes that can trip stuff. So I want to pay attention, and I want to really watch for stuff because I don't want to lose access to my heart. And that forgive everybody of everything all the time. It catches me and saves me all the time. And I'm very conscious how quickly I judge. You know, I'm in line at the grocery store in the express lane counting the items of the person in front of me. Really? I mean, I don't have better things to do with my time? Or, you know, the light turns green and somebody's taking a moment and meanwhile, I'm grousing in my car, you know, pedal on the left, let's go. You know, isn't it interesting when I'm not late, you're all driving fine. So that just tells me, again, it's about what's going on with me and what's going on with my heart. And I don't want to lose sight of that. In another one of these couples therapy situations my husband and I were in, I remember this woman saying to us, this was a different woman, and she said, whoever gets to the love first wins. Whoever gets to the love first wins. Because my husband and I would have these, you know, arguments, these scrapping arguments. And again, we were always showing up in couples therapy, trying to figure out who could tell the best story. Remember, I want to get you on my side. So he's telling his story. I'm telling my story because I want you on my side. And, you know, the best therapists never participate in that stuff. But this woman introduced this concept to us that whoever gets to the love first wins. And she talked about us designating a chair in our living room. And then when we were in an argument, whoever got to the love first, go sit in the chair. And I loved that. And, you know, and until there was the time that we're both scrapping to get in the chair. No, I got to the love first. No, I'm sitting down for, you know, sitting down, all that stuff. Anything and all of that stuff. It's all a smokescreen. Anger is such a smokescreen. All I'm trying to do when I get angry, and it's all my mother was ever trying to do with her anger, her raging anger and my dad's passive aggressive anger, it was keeping this safe is what the thinking is. I'm thinking I'm doing this and it's keeping me safe. It's not. Anything but, right? Anything but. And I feel quite sure this is how we make the changes that we want to see in the world, is by getting access to our heart. I feel like it's a personal responsibility I have to keep access to my heart. And there are things I can do that make it difficult. You know, this has been a really exciting week this week as I've been preparing for this, and I just, you know, just very excited, and I haven't been getting a lot of sleep. You know, last night was a good night. I got, I think, 4.5 hours, maybe 5, the night before 3. Well, that's not very loving to put myself in those kind of situations, you know, to do that. So this is just a really wonderful opportunity as I keep staying connected with my heart to see what life is all about. You know, I was angry for so long because I was just in so much pain and I didn't have anybody to talk about it. So, and I just want to keep checking in. I've got a lot more things I can talk about, but Kathy, anything in our chat?
Samarin said, vulnerability is not weakness. It is a quick road to healing, accepting, recognizing, and moving by learning from the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think talking, at least at Microsoft, we're talking a lot more now about bringing our whole selves to work, that it's not just, you know, you got your work self compartmentalized from everything else. And I really love that. Let's see, Amy, you had your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Sure. I'm really enjoying this, and I'd love to add to the chat, but for some reason it says I've been removed.
Oh, I don't know why. It shouldn't be doing that. But go ahead and talk.
Leave and maybe come back into the meeting, and maybe it'll put me back in the chat.
No, tell us what you just...
Yeah, what did you want to put in the chat?
Oh, I was just going to say, hey, and I'm enjoying this, basically.
Okay, good.
I really am enjoying it, yes.
I love it. Where are you from? Where's the beautiful accent from?
Texas.
Oh, my Lord, that's so beautiful. I'm such a chameleon with accents and stuff. I love it. I do. I used to teach middle school, and I would go in, and on the first day, and I'd go in, and I'd pretend I was from Dublin, you know, I'd say, hi, my name's Sheila Jenkins, I'm here from Dublin, Ireland, I'm going to be teaching you, right? And the kids were like, oh, they would have all these questions about Dublin and stuff, and I'd say, oh, yeah, no, it's a great place. I've never been to Ireland. And I, you know, so I'd go like this, I'd teach the whole class, you know, we'd be doing this, and, you know, and I love the Irish accent. And then the next day, they'd come in. I taught them, this was a writing class, and I taught twice a week, so 2 days later, they'd come in, and I'd be talking in a Southern accent like this, because my best friends, those ones I used to talk about, I used to go with their parents and their family down to West Virginia all the time, and the kids would say, hey, wait a minute now, I thought you were from Dublin. I'd say, Dublin, y'all okay? No, what'd you have for lunch? You know, I just love accents, but I love the Southern accent. It's so
I live in Nashville now.
Oh, I have great friends in it. Is that how I know Nashville?
Excuse me?
Are you part of my Nashville buddies? I've got a whole bunch of buddies in Nashville.
I don't think so.
Okay. Wow. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's cool. No, I love Nashville. That's a great, I've got some great friends in Nashville. I can't wait. I want to go to the Grand Ole Opry.
Have you never been?
I've never been.
Oh, you got to
go. And I was, about 3 months ago, I was having a hard time with my relationship with my husband. So I play guitar. I mean, I'm not a great guitarist, but you don't need to be a great guitarist to do a good country song. You only need to know 3 chords, and I know 4. So I'd written this country song, right? This, you know, oh, he done me wrong, and oh, my life, it's so, you know, oh, right? Just classic country song, poorly written. But and I was on the phone with one of my Nashville buddies, and I said, oh, can I, you know, I'm going to play can I play, you know, I wrote, you know, I'm kind of crying. And I said, oh, can I play my song for you? And she said, yeah, right. And so I play this song. I mean, I wish I had the lyrics, but he done me wrong. Just suffice it to say, he done me wrong. He done me wrong. Right. That was the song. And she ends up revealing that she had worked at the Grand Ole Opry. And I thought, well, gosh, great. You know, so what did you think of the song? No, it was a nice song. She said, I actually don't like country music, but it's a good song. I said, wait a minute. Wait. You're in Nashville, you worked at the Grand Ole Opry, and you don't like country music? And she said, I don't. But I really liked your song. And I said, yeah, okay. All right, thanks. Anyway, so.
We did have a question that I wanted to get in.
Yes.
Two. So one person is going to be recorded. Yes, we have a Women IT Pros channel on YouTube. So just look for Women IT Pros, all one phrase there. And then Katie was saying, how would you suggest dealing with an employer who isn't on the vulnerability train? I've worked with supervisors who just don't get it.
Yeah. One of those, you know, I used to see a practitioner. And again, remember I talked about practitioners. It's not like therapy. I mean, they are somebody they are holding a mirror right up to you. And I remember what she said to me one time. And whose question was this, Kathy?
Kate.
Kate. Kate, I remember her saying to me one time when I said, something similar. I don't know what it was, but somebody's showing up and they're not doing it right. And she said, it's a mirror. It couldn't show up in your life if it wasn't already present in your life. Now, I say that very gently because I know what that means to have somebody say, right? It couldn't show up in my life unless it was already present in my life. But Kate, I've got to tell you, it is the get out of jail free card. So for me, I can just tell you for me, what I do when something like that, and the hardest person to do this with is my husband. But when this shows up and somebody they're not participating in the way that I want them to participate, I look and I find that very thing in my own life. I just look for it in my own life. That's all I can do. Short of quitting your job, right, or transferring to another place in the company, if I don't find a way to reconcile myself to other people and who they are and how they show up, I will be a perpetual victim. I will be a victim for the rest of my life. And I was already victimized in my childhood. I'm done. I don't want to be a victim anymore. And I'm a victim if you aren't behaving the way I want you to behave. So that would be my gentle, loving suggestion. That whatever it is, and you might, and I'm just a big fan of, again, Kate, taking the story out. So I like adjectives. So I would say, write 3 adjectives, right? Whatever it is about this person, not nouns, because we don't want to declare, because remember, we're all better than our worst moments. But what are 3 adjectives? So if I think of who's somebody who's jerking my chain right now, okay, controlling, busybody, unkind. I'm thinking of somebody. So what I want to do is I want to look in my own life, Kate, where am I controlling? Where am I a busybody? And where am I unkind? I'll tell you this one last story because I know we're going to be wrapping up here. My husband and I were at this gym, and we used to go to this exercise, this stretch class, taught by this tiny little Chinese woman. She was lovely and wonderful and flexible and, kind of a strong character. And there'd be 40 people in the class on mats. She'd go around, she'd be talking throughout the class, the hour-long class, and she'd be adjusting people. And she never adjusted me. Never. I was going to that class once or twice a week for a year, and not once did she ever come over to my mat and adjust me. So I got very convinced that this gal, let's just call her Jane, I got very convinced that Jane didn't like me. And I went in and I saw that practitioner who, again, and the practitioner are always about not, oh, I'm sorry this is going on, or let's go back in your childhood and figure out where this is going on, but where is this in your life? And what she said to me she said, you need to change your conversation. You've got a bad conversation going on about Jane. I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, try this. She said, I want you to, instead of walking around and saying that Jane doesn't like me, going into the class, Jane doesn't like me, Jane doesn't like me, I want you to start telling yourself that Jane loves you. She said, start right now. That conversation has changed now. Say that Jane loves you. I said, Jane loves me. She said, okay, that's the conversation. So I did that, and I kid you not. 3 days later, I go into that class, I'm on the mat, she comes over and adjusts me. And every time I went in the class after that, she adjusted me. And the only thing that changed was my story, what's going on for me. And that's the only power that I have. I do not want to be a victim. There are always going to be people out there who are not doing the things the way we think they should be doing them. I can't live there because it'll shut down my heart. I can't do it.
So that goes back to forgiveness.
Back. The only place. Forgive everybody, everything, all the time. And surrender perfection. That's my 10th principle on the thing, right? Is it's an uninteresting, unattainable, useless pursuit. Relish your imperfection and relish other people's imperfections. The darkness and the light. Just love it all. Celebrate it all.
Yeah, part of bringing our whole selves to work again.
Oh man.
But I think there's something to be said for, finding companies and look for places that want that, because, that's a big piece of the whole diversity and inclusion conversation is that, you know, I am valuable to my company because of my theater major, not in spite of it.
Oh,
You know, I am valuable because of, you know, my background and what I bring.
yes. But again, it all starts with the story I tell. And water rises to its own level. I will end up, and this is not airy-fairy Pollyanna stuff. That's physics. I mean, literally, water rises to its own level. It's all about the story I tell. And I'm, as you know, the Marvins of the world are more than their worst moments. I'm more than my worst moments. And my childhood is over. Lingers, right? The pain is there. That's what building community is all about, and going gently. And when I'm at the stoplight and somebody, you know, doesn't get off the line, to just think, maybe they're distracted. Maybe they're happy. Maybe they're sad. Maybe they just got a diagnosis. Mind your own business, sweetie. Just wait. Look at the tree. Look at the child. Oh, somebody's got a dog. Oh, okay. Well, now we can go. Like just that gentleness. Keep going there. I want to keep going there. Because I think, well, I know we need that. And I know I need it. And when I live in that place, then different things show up. And the Janes of the world change because my story changed. And even if they don't change, it changes anyway. Even if she hadn't adjusted me when I went back in, it was going to be a different experience. Why? Because I wasn't saying Jane doesn't like me anymore. I knew Jane loved me. That's what I'll say sometimes. You know, when you say to somebody, you got a friend, you say, oh, I love you, and you know, they don't say it back. When we hang up the phone, I always say, you love me too, you just might not know it yet. Or you might be afraid to say it, but you love me. You love me. I know it. Right? Like, that's a great place to live from. And for this little girl who was alone so much of the time and so shut down and shut out by a very troubled mother, that's a really good place to be.
Fantastic. Thank you. We are at time, so we're going to have to wrap up here. We will stick around for a couple minutes after we close the recording if people want to hang out and talk with each other, ask questions. Before you go, do please fill out the survey. And I'm going to put some information in the chat window here about how to find us. This is something that's open to everyone, although sometimes we do have some people here who are from Microsoft. So if you are internal, I will put a link that you can go to, and I will send all of the call information to that every month. But if you are external, for the US calls, I'm putting all of those on Eventbrite now, and you can actually just follow Eventbrite. So it's a great way to keep in touch with us there.
Kathy, do we have time? Can I do tell you one more thing, about a 40-second thing?
40-second thing.
All right. So, you know, when I ended up in a therapy situation, and again, I had sex issues and stuff, quite obviously, and I was afraid to get married. My husband and I had a 10-year engagement. And people would ask us, you know, why the long engagement? I'd say, I'm afraid. And so my therapist was saying, well, what are you really afraid of? I said, well, what I'm really afraid of is sex. I'm afraid of having a happy, healthy sexual relationship. And she said, Sheila, I've got great news for you. Great news. Here's how we can solve it. Role play. She said, I want you to pretend you're a low-down prostitute on Hollywood Boulevard, and your husband is a seedy John, and he comes and he picks you up in his SUV and takes you to a skanky motel, and you guys have raucous sex all night long, and he leaves in the morning and throws a $100 bill on the dresser. Oh, God. How do you think we met?
Yes, I if you read Sheila's full bio, she mentioned she was also a joke stringer for the Tonight Show. So there you go. All right, well, I'm going to stop the recording, but like I said, we'll stick around. We welcome you to show up at our meetups, and also October call, October 23rd. Same bat time, same bat channel here.